Welcome to your second Puncty Bite for the week of September 5th through the 9th. And of course, today is Labor Day, and I hope that you're all just enjoying a day off, or at least a day where you can work quietly. I know that's what I'm doing, and it's absolutely wonderful. I did want to begin today's Puncty Bite with a personal story. This weekend I had the most amazing opportunity to talk with an old friend who I've been very, very worried about because some time ago he went into the hospital and because of a bacterial sepsis, he had to be put into a coma. We talked for a long time, and it turns out that what happened was that he acquired a very rare necrotizing staphylococcal pneumonia. And I didn't know a lot about staphylococcal pneumonia prior to this. I have pulled in front here an article about a MRSA that is a staphylococcal pneumonia. My friend's pneumonia became necrotizing, and because of the rapid progression of the bacteremia, they decided to induce a coma. He was in a coma for 7 weeks, which was absolutely phenomenal, and it was just amazing to see him standing there and being okay. Obviously, his road to recovery is a very, very, very long one, but I was in tears to know that he was there and just to see him. So an interesting anecdote, I guess, to share with you. Okay, so as I mentioned, this week is the week of the 5th through the 9th of September. And I'll just pull the schedule in front here and recognize that this week we will be performing Labs 3 and Lab 4. And Marielle and Sarah, you will be responsible for Open Lab this Friday. For Lab 3, we've just got a few things of note, and I'll go ahead and grab your TA guidelines and bring those in front here. And just a few notes on Lab 3. I'll try to take care of getting the pictures on the board for everyone before the lab begins, but you'll want to remember to assign the gram stain report, and there is an assignment description overhead that you can put up after you've talked about the gram stain and the acid-fast stains. Of course, we'll want to emphasize that those two stains are now the first of the differential stains that we'll be doing, and of course when we talk about differential stains, we know they are stains that put organisms into two different groups based upon their staining properties. Remember that as you're readying for your lecture, the TA guidelines are really helpful in giving you a few extra things to say as you're talking about the gram-positive cell wall. These are some suggestions for other things that you can add as you talk about that cell wall, and it's always a good idea to pause and do that. I will cover gram-positive and gram-negative cell walls in lecture on Wednesday, so you will be giving students their sort of the snapshot of a preview to that lecture. So I will also bring in the models that I have of gram-positive and gram-negative cell walls, but remember to do a good job introducing the cell walls. You don't have to tell them everything about them, but they do need to know the basics so that they'll feel comfortable with the lab. It's also important to let students know that the acid-fast stain is completely different than the gram stain. The acid-fast stain is looking for something totally different, and it doesn't relate to the gram stain. So it's not to say that all gram-positives will be acid-fast, right? That's not true. So it's important to sort of distinguish there. The acid-fast stain, as far as your TA guidelines go, there are a bunch of extra things that you might want to say about acid-fast bacteria, disease-causing acid-fast bacteria, and it's nice to slow down and pause and talk about some of those things as you go through the portion of the lecture dedicated to the acid-fast. Please also remember to warn your students that the stain that we use, the carbofuscin that we use, is a carcinogen. So they need to work in the hood. They also need to wear gloves, and you can help them remember to get gloved up before they go and do that stain. Wonderful. Let's talk just a little bit about Lab 4, which will be doing endospore and capsule stains. So a lot of fun to be had in that lab, and I think a ton of fun on the lecture. So remembering when we do come in for Lab 4, we're going to have the students get their capsule stains ready first. So we'll have them take their several loopfuls of milk so that it can dry while the lecture is happening. That is really helpful to enhancing the quality of the stains, just as it was when we did our negative stains last time. Now, in terms of the endospore procedure and the endospore concepts, I've tried to give a lot in the TA guidelines of background on endospores. And we do know that endospores have certainly remained viable for over 100,000 years. And there is an article that is in the notebook by the overhead that talks about one particular revival of endospores from 25 to 40 million old Dominican amber. You should definitely tell your students about this, because this is absolutely Jurassic Parkish. It's really great example of being able to extract an endospore that obviously was viable from something that was the age of dinosaurs. Okay, so that being said, also with the capsule, I wanted to note that in lecture we will not cover the intricacies of capsules. We talk instead about layers external to the cell, and we mention capsule as being one of those, but we talk about the whole ball of wax. We talk about slime layers, we talk about slime layers and capsules as glycocalyces, and we talk about S layers, and we talk about sheaths. So we don't focus specifically on capsules. So it's good to do a good job of mentioning that capsules are really the well-defined types of glycocalyx, and it's a really great specific example in showing them on the Klebsiella pneumoniae, that really distinguished formed capsule. I think that covers pretty much what we need to know for Lab 3 and 4, but please do remind your students that they need to read Lab 5 ahead of time, and that would be very, very helpful, because remember that we will be dealing with dilution problems in Lab 5. We also will be having the lecture exam on that day, and I realize that's kind of a rough day to cover dilution problems. So we'll want to work out together, you and I, TAs in your section, how we want to do the lecture. I'm hoping not to lecture all day, but to maybe share the lecture with you, so that we can also get the first lecture exam off and running that day and not have too much chaos. Also along those lines, I'm looking for a second grader. Kristen, as many of you know who TA'd last semester, will be my lecture grader, but I would love to have one other person come and grade one question on the exam. I will pay you, so I know Richard, you had mentioned you might be interested. If you are, please do give me a holler so that I know who I'm reserving that money for, and if you would like to come in on either Tuesday or Wednesday to help me out a little bit with the grading and make some money, and I don't know, go out for dinner or something like that with the money. I think that's pretty much a wrap, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow.